Welkom bij de podcast Energie in Business en leuk dat je weer luistert, want in deze podcast gaat het alleen maar over de mens. En waarom doe je wat je doet? Ik ben daar super nieuwsgierig naar. We hebben gesprekken over bewustzijn, over eventueel een bedrijf van iemand, persoonlijke verhalen, spiritualiteit, energie natuurlijk. En mijn doel is met deze podcast om diepgaande en boeiende gesprekken te voeren, zodat we eigenlijk zien dat we niet zoveel verschillen van elkaar, dat we allemaal op dezelfde manier gemaakt zijn. Het is absoluut niet mijn intentie om het een reclamepraatje te laten worden voor degene die ik interview. Want ik geloof namelijk dat we pas echt interessante dialogen gaan krijgen wanneer we de diepte ingaan en ons richten op het leven zelf. Heel veel plezier! Leuk dat je weer kijkt en luistert naar deze podcast van Energie in Business. Vandaag ga ik in gesprek met Marina Galan. En zij is een coach en mentor en spreker en ze werkt met mensen van over de hele wereld. En ik ben haar tegengekomen in Praag en ik ga vandaag met haar in gesprek. En deze podcast zal dan ook in het Engels gaan. Veel plezier. Have fun. Well, hello Maria Galan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yvonne, for having me. It's an honor to be invited here.
Okay, well, thank you, because I was, when I heard you speak on the Listening World Summit in Prague, and you had a talk about radical commitment to inner peace, it was like, oh yes, but am I willing to place this commitment on myself, yes or no? And then I thought, oh, that would be very interesting to talk about that as well on my podcast. So I was so thrilled that you said yes to this invitation. So welcome.
My pleasure, really.
Thank you. And I would just want to start because you have a wonderful line on your website. You start your website with that. I already made an introduction for you. So you are supporting human beings to access and harvest their innate capabilities. Right. And you have that wonderful phrase, any human being can benefit from understanding how the mind works because every single human activity happens through it. Through our mind, we experience, we know, we understand, we live. Bam. So this was the end of the interview.
Okay, sweet.
Now this is such how life works.
Yeah. Like it's interesting to realize how often we forget that we have a mind. Mm-hmm. And we usually operate as if we didn't have one. No, it's just taken for granted. And it's not something that we actually are careful enough to take into account in the equation of our lives, which is a shame because it's the most incredibly powerful tool that we can have. And yet we've never taken the time to try to understand it, to try to get to know it and establish a relationship with it. And so we just assume that it is there and that it is working and that it can't just work that one way it has been working always. And we don't know about its resources and capabilities and its malleability. And I think that every human being, as they begin to settle down, slow down, and they begin to actually take a look at their minds, take a look at how they work, their life changes completely, radically. And we immediately, intuitively know how to access all the resources that are available for us. And that makes a total transformation in anyone's life.
And when did it start? When was it the first time that in your life you realized, oh, maybe something else is possible?
Yeah, well, I don't know if there was one moment. I would call it a collection of moments.
Mm-hmm.
But I had been a searcher all my life, and I had studied, psychology and psychiatry and meditation and compared religions and Sufism and mysticism and everything, trying to find a way to a better life, to a more meaningful life, to a life in which I didn't feel as inadequate and as unprepared for. And so I think there were definitely different moments in which the penny was dropping. I was having insights and having insights and having insights. But I guess the moment that changed everything for me was when I realized that thought with a capital T, the principle of thought, the fact of thought in humanity is impersonal. And it doesn't need to mean anything about you. It doesn't, unless you make it so.
And can you talk about that a little bit more? Because I think a lot of people don't understand when you're talking about effect, about thought.
Yes,
The
of course.
capital T, thought.
Of course, with pleasure, yes. So there is a natural principle of thought that occurs, which is just to point to the fact that all human beings have the capacity for thought. We are all thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
So there is the principle of thought, but the principle of thought is in the formulas, is the fact of thought itself. The way that principle, that universal principle of thought manifests in me is my personal thinking. Yes, it's my thought construct. But the principle of thought is untouchable, is unchangeable. And as such, thought is just energy passing through your consciousness. And with your mind, you give it meaning according to your conditioning up to now, mm-hmm. Your experience up to now, your beliefs up to now, your opinions up to now. So there is a personal manifestation of thought, which we call personal thought. But there is the principle of thought, which points to the fact of thought itself. So when I saw that, the way the principle of thought operates, so it's just energy moving through my consciousness. But this personal manifestation that happens in me happens because of my conditioning, because of my thought construct already. But it is not personal. It is just given the meaning that I give it. And if I don't give it any meaning, then it's just an interesting thought that appeared in my consciousness. So thoughts that in the past would have been, repetitive, habitual thoughts of self-judgment or shame, that I was convinced meant something about me, mm-hmm. Suddenly we're just, oh, look at that, a thought. Isn't that interesting? So I started looking at the fact of thought versus the content of thought. And as you disengage with the content and start observing the fact, you realize that the content is very, very malleable. It changes. Like I had all this habitual insecure thinking or self-shaming thinking or self-blaming thinking, but I also had other types of thinking. And so it was like well, which one is true then?
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes I think, I don't know, I am beautiful, and sometimes I think I am horrible, and sometimes I think I am lovable, and sometimes I think I am unlovable. And so there cannot be a truth to any of that. It's just thought.
Which is truth.
Which
Thought is truth.
Thought
Yeah.
per se is truth, right?
Yeah.
Now, when we grab onto one of those thoughts and we begin to pay attention to it and we begin to treat it as if we're true, we innocently create identity around that thinking.
Mhm.
And then that identity becomes a filter through which we experience life, through which we experience reality. So if I have enough thoughts of insecurity and I create an identity around insecurity, suddenly it's not, oh, look, I have a few insecure thoughts through my day. Suddenly, no, suddenly it becomes, oh, I am an insecure person. And that becomes a filter through which I interpret the world. And so because I am insecure, I don't know, public speaking is it's not a possibility for me anymore, or going to the dance or whatever. And we don't realize how this engaging with our thinking ends up limiting our possibilities in life.
Mhm.
And so back to your question, when I realized that my thinking was not mine and it was not me, it was just thought happening, that suddenly opened up a huge space of possibility that allowed for a different reality to come in. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Because it's but do you never have insecure thoughts, or are you the insecure thoughts never grab you anymore? Just wondering.
And sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do for a few minutes. Sometimes they do for a few hours. Sometimes they go on for a few days. But I am slowly getting better at recognizing, at catching myself and saying, oh, there I am again.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Yes.
Giving meaning to my thinking. Yes.
Yes. I'm engaging with my thinking.
Mm.
And I love the fact that there is an alarm system built within us that lets us know when we are engaging in an unuseful way with our thinking, which is feeling, right? So the emotional system of human beings is a real-time feedback system that allows you to know whether you're engaging in a useful way or in an unuseful way with your thinking. And so just by paying attention to how you're feeling is an invitation to going back to, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing with this?
Yeah.
And that, when you start paying attention to that, then insight about that begins to happen. About those mechanics of the mind.
Yeah, but then you can see what I see for myself is that I see how my control game is working out in my thinking, in all different way of my thinking, how my opinions, we were talking about opinions before our talk, our opinions are shaped by everything we have ever encountered. It's like, oh my God. And that's also a control system.
Yes. But it's an illusion of control.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because we are the thinker of the control. So that's also our personal thinking of control. But so it's also passing through.
Yes. Yes, and that illusion of control pacifies the ego. Because the ego, one of its main functions is to try to keep you safe. And so the illusion of control appeases the ego. And that is why it interferes so much with our thinking and keeps us in areas that we are comfortable in, that are familiar to us, because it feels that it is in control.
And
right?
even the situation may not be safe or whatever, but you think you have the control.
Oh, yes,
Mm.
absolutely. I had the opportunity to work once with a group of women that had been experimenting abusive relationships. And their irrational mind knew very well how to deal with that circumstance, because they had been in that circumstance for years. But it was, their rational mind was terrified of not being in that circumstance, because it wouldn't know how to deal with a different circumstance, with a different set of challenges. So these challenges, we know them, we are okay, we can deal with them. But who are we without these circumstances? We don't know. And that is terrifying for the rational mind. That is terrifying for the ego, not knowing.
Yeah, and yet we don't know anything. We don't know anything. We don't know what's going to happen in 2 minutes.
Exactly. So again, the illusion of control is what appeases the ego.
Yeah. I think I think it's magic. And also yesterday I had some people coming over and we were talking about this. We were talking about thinking. And then it's like, yeah, but no, I don't know. I don't know if that's the thing. And I said, well, you think, yes, and you take it serious, of course. I think it's so interesting that a lot of people like to avoid that we are responsible for our own thinking.
Right. Yeah. Yes, we are responsible for the thoughts we choose.
Yeah.
We are not responsible for the thoughts that appear in our consciousness.
No, which we gave attention.
Yes, but we are responsible for the ones that we choose to pay attention to, the ones we choose to validate.
And is it then also like everything has to happen for a reason in life? Then when you make that choice to follow that thought, that insecure thought, is that then also the meant to be?
Well, your question can be answered on different levels. So on one level, yes, it's meant to be. But on another deeper level, we have to consider free will into the equation. And so the thought popped up in my head, popped up in my consciousness. Yes, that was meant to be. Now, if we are living an unconscious life in which we don't know how our conditioning is tends to work, and how our thought construct has been operating for the past years, then of course it looks like it was meant to be. How else would I respond to that if this happened to me, right? But when you begin to see that it's not personal, that it's not you, that it's not about you, then you see that you have the power to choose to engage with it or not. Then you discover your freedom.
I think that was an interesting thing you said, is the personal. You take it personal. I think that's interesting.
Why? Why do you think it's interesting?
Because we identify with ourselves, with our thinking, and it's our personal self-importance, what we love to be the thinker,
Yes.
where it all arises. And how I see it is like everything, if I put this thing here, then my reality will be that this is placed on the right side. But if I decide now to place it on the left side, my reality is this.
Yes.
So how I see it is reality is like this, you know, and there are different choices we can make. And if we put this one here, then this will unfold. If you put it in here, this will unfold.
Yeah. And there are theories that say that choice has already been made before we become aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if that is true, but at least we can talk about the fact that we have the experience of free will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to notice that ultimately having the experience of free will or not having the experience of free will makes a huge difference in your life.
Yeah.
Knowing that you can have the experience of free will or believing that you can't have it makes a difference. Because then when an uncomfortable thought shows up, when an unuseful thought shows up, you can stop. And you can at least have the experience of free will, which changes things. Because if you don't know that you have the experience of free will or the possibility of the experience of free will, then it's just autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a possibility to stop and reconsider and feel it through.
Mm-hmm.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, it makes totally sense.
Yeah. And I think most people, I mean, I surely was one of them, certainly. We live life not knowing. We live innocently,
Mm-hmm.
believing that our thoughts are real and that our thoughts are us, and that thinking model that we have built is inescapable, that our conditioning is inescapable. And that is simply not true.
And that's freedom to know that.
And that's freedom to know that.
Yeah.
There is a beautiful quote by Dr. Jack Pransky, who is a colleague, a teacher of the principles. And I am certainly going to mess this up and not use the exact words, but he says something like, all we are is peace, wisdom, and well-being, and the ability to believe that we are not.
Mm-hmm. There you have it, the free will.
There you have it, the free will.
Mm.
Now, it makes it sound like the bad guy for a second, no? Well, if we didn't have the freedom to believe that we are not that, everything would be beautiful and perfect. Well, yeah, but could we really be love and wisdom without freedom?
No.
So even though it can look like the bad guy, it's the one that actually completes the picture.
Yeah.
But you need to know about it.
Yeah, and that's also a thing. How come we don't know about it?
Well, we don't know about it because nobody taught us.
No, nobody taught us. And then some welder in Scotland or he was in Canada, I think, when he had that alignment experience.
Exactly.
And that's what I love a welder having this experience and seeing that he is not insecure, he thinks he is insecure. I love that.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow, that you have that realization. Bam.
And the fact that one insight like that, one epiphany like that one can completely change your life and the lives of thousands around you. You know, oh, I am not insecure. I just think I am. Well, what if that was true? What if that was actually true?
But it's so simple. Like, okay, I think this. I can, in my consciousness, I have this conversation with you. And I think it's like, it's too simple. And that's also what everybody, I was looking also a lot of books like Zen Buddhism, and I loved all those books. And I was always looking for and searching for, what are they feeling? Why are they feeling that way? What are they seeing? And it was only when I learned about Sydney Banks that I thought, oh, that makes totally sense. Now I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember having a conversation with a psychologist once, and she was telling me about all these emotional intelligence workshops that she had gone to, and how they had taught her how to identify the feeling, but to the detail, you know, like we're like 8 different types of fear and 6 different types of rage, and I don't know, you know. So they had to identify the feeling, and then they had to internalize the feeling, and then they had to find creative ways in which to express the feeling, and all these things. But when I asked her, so did they teach you what feelings are for? She went blank. She was like, what? It's like, yeah, well, did they teach you what feelings are for?
Silence.
And I can promise you, Yvonne, there has not been a single person that I have asked this question to that has been able to answer that for me. You know, oh, I know feelings are for this, you know, except for the people that are training the 3 principles, of course. But it's incredible that we go through life feeling, and we've never wondered what for.
Yeah. And the worst thing also is when you have 5 different kind of grief or hurt or I don't know what. Maybe it feels for me completely different. Section 5.3 of hurt or pain or grief. So it's man-made.
It is.
The explanation of a feeling. And then if a feeling can only be experienced by yourself.
It is. It is man-made. You know, when I was little, I used to think like, how can I be absolutely sure that what I call red is what everybody else sees red, you know? Because I was just taught this is red.
Yeah.
What if others are seeing green and calling it red because that's what they were taught red is? You see? And last year, I was blessed enough to be forced by life to experience grief in a completely new and different way, an unexpected way. My mother passed away. I had been taking care of her for years. And because life is mysterious and plays in mysterious ways, I was not there when she passed away. I was on literally the other side of the world with my 3 children and unable to come back.
Mm.
And so we were in Mongolia. We were in the middle of Mongolia, in the plains, on horses. And because we could not go back, we had to discover a new way of grieving.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unbelievably beautiful. Like I would have never imagined that grief could be something like that. And I have tried explaining this to a couple of psychologists, and they're like, no, you are in denial. Okay, I am in denial then, but it's been such a beautiful denial, you know, and it's been exquisite. Yes, there has been sadness, and yes, there has been loss, but oh my God, it's been so beautiful, so filled with gratitude and recognition and okayness.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even call it acceptance, you know, it's just okayness. It's like, yeah, of course. There's a self-evidence to the fact. And so you see, when we put aside what we were told needed to be,
Mm-hmm.
when we put aside what we think should be, what we are convinced should be, and we open up a space of I don't know, we don't have a clue of what will become available to us.
No. And so, yeah, and really something out of yourself can come up. I had the same, my mom died also in 23, end of 23. And I must say, I have not missed her because, and that's weird because you can't say that. You can't say that you don't miss your mother. But I didn't miss her because I know she's just went to the formless. It was the shape she had, which was I identified as my mother, but I know she's much bigger than that. And I can only say that because I saw my father die 13 years ago, you know, really die. We saw, my mom and a sister of mine saw something coming out of his head, like a heating thing. And I thought, oh, it's probably me again. And then I said, well, have you seen that as well? And they said, yes.
Oh, wow.
So it was so, and I thought, oh my God, but that is really the transition of the form to the formless again. It was so, and I wasn't afraid of death anymore. It was like, oh, it's just,
Yeah.
you just get out of this body and you go on.
Yeah, it would be like being afraid of birth, right? It's just coming from the formless to the form.
Yeah.
So from the form to the formless. It's just.
Yeah, and even death can be full of life. That's how I experienced it.
I think it is. I think it is. Many years ago, I worked with a group of agronomers, and we were talking about tomatoes and how they planted tomatoes and the whole process and how life begets life. But at some point, we got to, well, yes, life begets life, but then it begets death so that it can beget life, right? And so it's just part of the process of. It's not the opposite of life. It's just part of the process of life.
Yeah, I think so too.
And man, I love the idea of understanding that nothing nothing is excluded, nothing is separated from life. It's all just one huge, beautiful, mad, crazy, wonderful experience. And we get to have it as humans. How cool is that?
It is.
How lucky are we, right? Like, how fortunate are we that we got to experience form in a way that has so many senses to experience life, right? Like I mean, we have the five senses, but we also have intuition, and we also feel. Like I often ask people, so what do you feel with? Like, what do you feel with? Like, how would you call the organ that you feel with? And it's an interesting question, because people always stop and kind of are forced to look inside, like, what do I feel with? What do I feel with? And it's such a mysterious world, and yet we treat it as the most mundane thing. It's just like, we just take it for granted. Oh, you feel. Yeah, we feel. I feel this way. I feel that way. I love feeling this way. I hate feeling that way. I reject feeling this way. I judge myself for feeling that way. It's just part of the kaleidoscope.
Yeah, and when you ask the direct question, with what organ do you feel, or how do you feel, it's like, but everybody used the word feeling. I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that. Yeah, that's true.
How do you know that you're feeling?
Yeah. I can punch myself in the face and then I know I feel, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. And because we are so used to the experience of the senses, we tend to project inner experience outside. Oh, I am feeling this way because that happened. And I am feeling that way because he said that. And we miss the connection. Oh no, this is just telling me about how my thinking is taking that.
Mm.
How my thinking is interpreting that. How my thinking is literally creating that.
And when you were saying like, oh, how wonderful this life is, I agree. I love my life. I love living in this body. I love experience like the World Summit. I love that. But then also at the World Summit, we also had people coming from Israel and Ukraine. I can imagine they don't say, oh, I love to have this experience of war. I love that I'm losing my kids now. Or, how do you relate to that?
Well, again, the first thing I would say is, again, we tend to project our feelings out there. I am having that experience because this is happening.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. If we do that, then of course it becomes, how could I possibly appreciate? Let's not talk about love the experience or enjoy the experience, but how could I possibly appreciate the experience of fear, given that this is happening?
Yeah.
But when you refuse to fall for that illusion that your feeling is coming from circumstance, and you really stick to the fact that it can only come from your thinking, because human beings are not designed to feel circumstance. We are only designed to feel our thinking in the moment. Then you see, oh, well, this is what is happening. the experience of fear that I am having, the experience of anger that I am having, the experience of desire of revenge that I am having, that has nothing to do with out there.
Mm.
That has everything to do and only to do with this. So if I am not liking this experience, I don't need to go and fix the world out there. I just need to let go of the way I am thinking about it, to be shown a new possibility of thinking about it. There is a beautiful example of that. A guy called Bill Cummings, he has a beautiful TED Talk. And that is called, I think it's called How to Love When You Want to Hate. And he had the experience, brutally difficult experience of his daughter going through rape and a horrible experience. And he found himself wanting to hate, wanting to kill, wanting revenge, wanting all these things. But he got curious and he said, well, that's not going to take me anywhere, feeling that way. You know, that's not something I want to carry through my life. And so what he did was he got a permission to go into prison and start interviewing rapists. Because he wanted to understand them. And he ended up helping hundreds of them.
Wow.
I know, but he had to go beyond his thinking, beyond his judgment, beyond his desire to hate. He had to literally let go of that so he could find another possibility.
Yeah, it's on what you said, carrying it with you, because you carry the suffering with you all the time. And that's heavy.
Yes.
I love what Krishnamurti also said, that you can look at the violence out there and the wars out there, but it only starts in you.
Exactly.
Because there's violence in you, and you have to look at the violence you have in you. And that's already in judgment of other people, but especially judgment on yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Like if everybody knew fully, truly, that their inner peace depended solely on them and the way they are using their mind, we would not be projecting conflict out there. We would not need to fix anything out there. We would not take seriously the experience of lack and the experience of need, of submitting other people or controlling others, or it would be a completely different world. And that is why Sitzbank's most quoted words are, if human beings learn not to be afraid of their experience, that alone would be enough to change the world.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I'm feeling fear. Hold on a second. Is this fear useful right now? No. Oh, I'm feeling anger because my kid spilled the milk. Is this anger useful? Not really.
No.
You see?
Yeah.
I'm feeling anger because a dog is attacking my son. Well, then in that case, anger could be useful, right? Because it sends the blood to your arms and legs, and it brings out superhuman capacities in you in terms of strength and stamina. Okay, that could work, right? We've all read stories of, mothers that see their sons being trapped under a truck and lifting the truck up.
Incredible.
What were they feeling? Fear? Were they feeling? I don't even want to imagine what they were feeling, right? But whatever they were feeling changed them physically to the point that they were able to accomplish that. But it was coming from their thinking. It was not coming from reality, right?
No.
If it had been someone else's kid, or if it had been a dog or a lizard, the
You
way you
wouldn't
think
do it.
about
Yeah.
that is different. And so what happens in you, the whole experience in you changes because of your thinking. It is created through your thinking.
It's amazing. I think that's amazing that we create all.
Right? And then, I'm not a very creative person. Hold on a second. What do you mean? You are the creator of your experience 24/7.
Yeah, but if you're not aware, if you don't know, you don't know.
If you don't know, then you become a victim of what you don't know.
Yeah.
You see?
That's why what I loved in Prague when those little kids were on the stage and they were talking, like every human being, everybody has a little star in itself. And it gets covered by our thinking. And then we just can get back to that star. And it's amazing. This should be taught at school. It will be amazing to have that.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So what you were doing, you are going all over the world to have talks like you did in Prague.
Yes.
And you were always talking about the 3 principles.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Different perspectives and in different frames, but yes.
And what I like about people who teach the 3 principles or speak about the 3 principles, they are all speaking about their personal experience. That's what I like. So it's not like, okay, this is in a book and I'm telling you what the method is, but what to do. But it's really like, because you are telling it from your own experience, like when you were talking about your mother who died or your father who died, what had happened in you when you made that radical commitment to inner peace. That was amazing, because then we can relate to that, because we are the same.
Yes, but what you're saying, Yvonne, is incredibly important. This is not a body of knowledge that can be passed around.
No.
This is experiential. It's like riding a bike. You cannot learn how to ride a bike by reading a book.
No.
You have to actually get on the bike and feel it, right?
Yeah, you have to balance, like swimming.
It's like
we already have the balance to float in water, but we don't realize it. So we
No, now you try. Imagine trying to teach someone how to ride a bike by explaining to them how it feels.
No, you can't.
It's impossible. So you can only talk about your experience. But they have to try it for themselves. And they have to find out what it feels like to them. Because again, my red might be very different from your red, right?
Yeah.
And so that is why Sydney Banks said that this understanding had to be shared mouth to mouth. Because you need to give a person the space to have the experience of it. People don't know about this, so they are not giving themselves the space to have the experience of it, of how their minds feel when they are working one way, when they are working another way, when they are working usefully, when they are not working usefully. It is something that you need to learn. Oh, this is how my mind feels when I am using it against me. Huh. Oh, this is how my mind feels when I am using it against others. Interesting. Oh, this is how my mind feels when I am coming from a deeper space of peace and love and truth within myself. Huh. And so you learn by feeling it. But I cannot teach you how your mind feels. you have to be willing to do the experiment yourself. And so I can talk about, well, I did a commitment to inner peace, and it was a radical one, and this is what happened, and that's the invitation. But if you go ahead and do it, let me know how it goes, because I'd be very interested in finding out how this went on for other people, you see? And again, in every single tradition, you find the same thing. A true teacher can only point you to the door, but you have to go through the door. A good teacher can only point you to the path, but it's your path. Nobody can walk it for you. You can have companions in the path, but you have to walk it.
I think that's lovely to end with this.
Perfect.
I want to thank you so much for this talk and to have I think this is my first podcast about the 3 principles, so I'm very glad I did it with you.
Thank you. I hope it won't be the last.
No, let's continue this talk. I love it. I want to say thank you very much. And if people want to know more about you, I will put your website underneath.
I appreciate
But
it.
also that people can look at the 3 principle global community.
Yes,
If they
please.
want to know more.
Yes, 3pgc.org.
Yes.
Global community. Amazing organization doing incredible work all over the world.
Yeah, but what I like too is that there are a lot of events organized in England or in Denmark or in Spain or in Prague, where we went.
Yes, we are doing our best to make it available to as many people worldwide as we can.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yvonne. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I've enjoyed it immensely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Dank je wel weer voor je aandacht. Je aandacht is tenslotte je kostbaarste bezit. Dus dank je wel dat je jouw aandacht hier aan hebt willen besteden. Ik ben ook benieuwd wat je ervan vond van dit gesprek. Laat vooral even een comment achter hieronder of stuur me een berichtje. Je kunt mij vinden op www.yvonnevandis.nl. En daar kun je ook een heleboel blogs vinden over spiritualiteit, ondernemen, bewustzijn, energie. Nou, you name it. Er staan ook een heleboel gratis trainingen en mooie e-books. Leef je uit en ontzettend dank en graag tot een volgende keer.